I'm back. We are in a renaissance. The amount of new heroic fantasy RPGs that are coming out to try to take a piece of Wizard of the Coast dwindling pumpkin pie of disappointed critters, old school gamers, filthy casuals, and anyone who hates AI art more than death is remarkable. Now, I've been soaking these various RPGs up, and I have to say that even more than making me want to play all of them, they're giving me this inspiration for just shifting up D&D in a way that will make it less gross or maybe just boring. D&D 5e has a bunch of problems, and all of these RPGs, or a lot of them, are largely an attempt to fix the problems that D&D suffers from, while keeping a lot of the stuff that we really, really love from the game. That might be the illusion of choice, the grindy, boring combat, the death system being a little, let's say, controversial, and action economies being so strained, especially by the fact that there is very little incentive to pay attention when it's not your turn. And I mean, there are a bunch of other issues, but those are the ones that have been really grinding my gears lately. So when everyone on YouTube started ranting about how DC20, the Dungeon Coach's new system, was basically D&D 6th edition, I got really excited for more tidbits, and tidbits is exactly what I found. I also found out, I don't know, DC20 is really, really cool. It's definitely in beta, and it definitely feels like it's in beta with the little document that I downloaded. But I really do want to play it outside of D&D, which is more than I can say for a bunch of these other systems that are popping up all over the place. I think it's a little too complicated for some of my players. It's got a little bit too much crunch, but it's easy to pull back on crunch, so jury's out. But here is a brief overview of 3 rules from DC20 that I think you could slap into your D&D game today to make it suck less. To make it way more fun. Number 1 is Death's Door. It's crazy boring, being down and rolling death saves. Bottom line, that just sucks. In addition, D&D has this problem where you're basically fine yo-yoing back and forth between 0 hit points and 2 hit points, and 0 hit points and 4 hit points. There is no cost for getting badly hurt, and like the extreme, what is it, rollover death roll? I can't remember. Editor, help me out. Where you take a bunch of damage over is just too much damage, especially once you reach like 5th level. This all really disincentivizes healing, and it also makes the like tactical math of the game a little bit too simple for me. Now in DC20, when you hit 0 hit points, you enter what's called Death's Door, and you immediately gain 1 exhaustion. Exhaustion gives you a penalty basically to all your rolls, similar to what it does over time in D&D. And if you hit 6, you're dead, similar also to D&D. Easy addition to being knocked below 0 hit points. Suddenly, being knocked into death saves matters a little bit more because you can only do it so many times before you're whoop. That means dead. Just adding that to the game would change the way that your players play, because they're not gonna want to get knocked down almost ever. They're gonna fight really hard and be way more careful with their health. But DC20 doesn't stop there. When you are on Death's Door, you have basically 4 action points in a round, and that is reduced to 1 action point per round. But this means that you can participate, even if it's significantly reduced. You also can't concentrate on spells, and you make a death save at the end of each turn. And that, instead of being 1 of 3, it hurts you a little bit. We'll get back to that in a second. I love these additions. I think that giving players a single action of their choice per turn would amazingly improve the game. They could move, they could do a bonus action, they could do a full action. It means that they're still looking forward to their turn, or still paying attention so that they can do reactions to protect or affect the outcome of the battle still. They aren't just sitting there on their phone waiting to roll their single D20 at the end of the turn. That's boring. Yeah, it's punishing, but it's a boring kind of punishing. I do kind of like the idea that in D&D 5e, maybe you could use your action to make a concentration check to keep your spell concentration going, but that might be broken because concentrating on spells is so powerful in D&D 5e. The next level, I talked about death saves in DC20 hurting you a little bit. That's because in DC20 you have a death threshold, which is basically how many negative hit points you can take before you die. This goes up as you level up and increases throughout the game. I love this. The death threshold in D&D 5e is, what is it? It's your full hit points? I'm gonna have to look that up later, but I've never had a player hit that. Not once, ever. I run 2 to 5 games a week, and that has never once happened to me. So reducing that, finding some way that you have this death threshold and that death saves aren't just one of 3, they bring you closer to this inevitable demise at a negative hit point level, I think is interesting. It also means that being at low hit points is just more dangerous. Maybe it's like half your hit points? I don't know. I haven't solved that one. Let me know in the comments if you have a good formula for figuring that out for D&D 5e. The next one is degrees of success. And honestly, I've been doing this for years, but DC20 really makes a system out of this, which I appreciate. Tests in DC20 make your high rolls count, no matter what. They do this by making it so that every 5 over the dice class that you roll gives you an additional bonus. This can be a mechanical change that's written into a stat block or an ability, or could be improvised by the dungeon master. And honestly, in my game, many of the tests that I can't afford players to fail, there's no way for them to fail it in my games. They just get more successes if they do better and better and better, right? And natural ones are always failures for me, because I like the extremes. What can I say? I love the drama. And you can also do this in reverse, right? If someone fails by more than 5 points, you can make it more punishing for them. The best part of this for me is that it also applies to damage. You do extra damage if you roll high. I love the idea of saying, oh, you rolled so high that you do an extra 5 points of damage, right? So exciting for a player to feel rewarded for hitting, and for hitting really hard. This also kind of reduces the threat of low AC monsters in an interesting way, especially squishy ones, right? And it allows you to pump up the hit points of monsters and not feel like you're slogging through it. You can hit often and do lots of damage, and that feels more exciting. This kind of leads into my next tip, but I suggest for every 5 over the AC that your player gets on their hit, you should do an extra 3 damage or a D6, their choice. I think that balances, but maybe like after level 5, it goes to a D8, after level 10 to a D10, and after level 12 to a D12, and at 20, well, no one's playing at level 20, but I don't know, 3d6 feels fun, right? That might break everything, but hey, we're shattering the system to make it better and to make it more interesting. Who says you can't adjust the monster's hit points behind the screen? Who said that? Not me. The final part, I said I was segueing into this, is no damage rolls. Have you ever rolled all ones on a fireball? I haven't personally, but I have seen it happen. It's not the way that I like to make my players cry, just personally. In DC20, there are no damage dice, only flat amounts of damage that get increased or decreased based on how well you roll your attacks. I guess not decreased, just increased. They don't punish you for rolling poorly unless you miss. This speeds up the game and also reduces the feels bad for like rolling a 1 on your single hit against the pit fiend while your friends are all dead. I love that. But let's be honest. Rolling dice is a bunch of the fun of Dungeons & Dragons. We're all geeky little gambling goblin addicts playing fantasy craps in our basements, right? But God knows it can feel really bad to roll poorly on damage. And I think that DC20 has done a really smart thing, just by removing the rolls, but allowing your good hits to help you do more damage. But what if we could have our cake and eat it too? D&D already does this for monsters. Every monster has an average damage listed for every ability. Just do that for your players. Have their dice amount, their average dice roll for whatever attack it is, plus whatever bonuses they might have, but let them choose whether they take the average or they roll the bones. Mathematically, it'll all come out in the wash, but experientially, this is gonna make every attack, every spell feel like its own epic decision. go for gold or take the safe route. I bet they roll 75% of the time. That's just my odds. That's my players. Also, there's a link to my Patreon in the doobly-doo where I've made a little worksheet where all of these rules are, and you can pass it out to your players for a nice, easy transition of play. So if you like that and you like more of these little free rules and content updates, then please follow me on there. And if you really like it, hey, give me a little pledge. Give me a little pledge. Okay, that is it for right now. My back is feeling a lot better. I discovered my desk used to be over there, and I was on this angle. So every time I would sit down at my desk, I would be re-injuring myself, which was crazy. Everyone get along level and check if where you're sitting is level, because it injured me and it's changed my entire life. There's my pro-life tip for you. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful and if anyone is gonna try any of this. I super appreciate y'all who watch this. See you next time, and in the meantime, stay miles away from boredom. Woo!